Welcome, everyone. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes for more folks to log in since we're still admitting people, and then we'll get started.
So we are at 7:03. We're going to give it 2 more minutes and then we will kick this off. Welcome. If you're here, you're at the Lentz Neighborhood Association General Meeting for 2021. So hopefully that's what you came here for. And we will get started in a minute. Sabina, can I have you tee up the land acknowledgement? Beautiful. All righty. So I'm just going to keep talking until it's 7:05 and then we'll officially start. What we're going to start with is a welcome, land acknowledgement, and then the code of conduct. Following that, we will present the agenda. What we currently have on the agenda, again, you can find in the link. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's do this. Hopefully that shows in a minute. Beautiful. Yeah, so then what we have on the current agenda would be to approve meeting minutes from the last 2 general meetings. We have 3 discussion topics and then committee updates, which is pretty standard. Sabina, if you don't mind, while I'm sharing my screen, to just watch for hands and items along those lines, that would be really helpful. So one more time, you are at the Lentz Neighborhood Association August general meeting. This meeting is recorded. We do post the recordings of the meetings as a record of the meeting for meeting minutes, as well as linked to sections in our meeting minutes. So just please be aware of that as we continue into this meeting. So we will start with a land acknowledgement. Sabina, would you mind reading that?
Yeah. The Lentz Neighborhood Association respectfully acknowledges that we are on traditional village sites of Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molalla, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River, creating communities and summer encampments to harvest and use the plentiful natural resources of the area. It's important to recognize that the languages and cultures that belong to people who are here for thousands of years still exist here today. There are currently about 80,000 Native Americans in the Portland metro area, The Native community has grown by nearly 16% in the last 10 years and outpaced the Portland regional population growth. Our hope is that we can build on this statement, both in terms of conversations to increase visibility for the Native community and accountability for white people, as well as to explore concrete actions that we can take to disrupt and dismantle colonialism beyond this territory acknowledgement.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to go over our code of conduct briefly, and then Autumn, I do see your chat, so we will go from there. Excellent. So the code of conduct, I'm typing the link in here if you prefer to read it as well. So the agreements for our general LNA membership meetings, we'd like to remind folks to avoid speaking out of turn and interrupting, avoid personalizing negative feedback, talking down to others, placing blame, or being disrespectful. What are great communication techniques and that we do want people to do are A, assume good intentions, respect the agenda, facilitators, and process. If you have already spoken tonight, please consider making space for others to feel heard, respect different viewpoints, respect boundaries, offer constructive criticism or propose solutions, welcome new members and guests, and get involved. We do consider the chat speech, so just keep that in mind. We'll try to make sure that either if folks are speaking or we can read off items in the chat as they come up, so we're going to do our best there. And please note that breaking any of these agreements may be grounds for removal from the meeting at the discretion of the facilitator. Hate speech of any kind will not be tolerated, and we'd like to aim for this to be a safer space for everyone. We also invite for you to help maintain this safe space. Excellent. So with that, I will switch it back over to the agenda on the screen. And then Autumn, I see after the opening, I would like to request to be recognized.
Oh, so you mean now?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. I would like to propose an alternative agenda, make a motion for an alternative agenda. I think that it is important that we hear from the voices of the membership as opposed to just board members or guests. I propose that members be allowed to raise their hands and are each given up to 5 minutes of uninterrupted ability to speak about their experiences, and that any rebuttals wait until the end. And I think that you might have to suspend some of your well, let's just leave it at that. So that is my motion for an alternative agenda to allow the members to have a voice to speak. Thank you.
Awesome. So it looks like Autumn, I typed up your motion. Hopefully this is an adequate summary. Autumn makes a motion and proposes to allow members to raise their hands and are allowed 5 minutes of uninterrupted time to speak. Does that?
Yes, thank you.
Beautiful. And it's been seconded by Schultz, Katie, and Daniel. So we can now open the floor to discussion. Let me open my thumbnail so hopefully I can see raised hands a little bit better. Nick, I see that your hand is up.
I've taken it down.
Okay. Schultz.
I just have a request that regional metro employees, neighborhood, or excuse me, Office of Neighborhood Involvement employees, if any staffers employed by the city of Portland, when they're making definitive statements about policies and stuff, if they could just advise the group that they are in fact employees of the city.
Is that an amendment or just a request?
It's just a request because there was this this statement by a Metro employee about just an interpretation of bylaws and something that just seems very debatable. And I think this motion is well needed and been called for a very long time. So I'm a big supporter of it.
Robert, I'm not at work right now. Fuck off.
Okay, we're gonna take a timeout already. I know it's a hot-ish afternoon, but I'm just gonna remind everyone right here and now that we're not gonna tolerate targeted discussion. Let's be respectful of each other. And this is Nick, your first verbal warning tonight. Schultz, please don't make personal attacks as well. Nicole, I see that your hand is up.
I just was hoping for some clarification on the motion. Is the motion like that I guess I don't understand where it fits in the, so the agenda would be erased as written and we would just have 5 minutes to hear each person who's a member of the Lens Neighborhood Association. Is that, sorry, I don't think that's me. Yeah, so that I guess I'm curious if that is in regards to the discussion about the future of the LNA, or if that 5 minutes is just that would be, we all just get to talk for 5 minutes about whatever we want.
Autumn, since this was your motion.
Yes, yes, actually, with regards to the LNA, past, present, future, basically the membership, the experiences of the members of the LNA members, because this is supposed to be about the membership. So I think that we should be allowed to hear from the members about their experiences, and obviously pertaining to LNA itself, not, whatever. And I am fine with hearing the diesel presentation because I don't want to be disrespectful of those guest speakers. But after that, yes, I would like everyone to be able to have their say, because I think that voices have been shut out for long.
Yeah, I hear you, Autumn. Can I propose then that we, in addition to your motion, and we have brought actually external facilitators for this LNA discussion to make sure that it's we have as much room for people's voices as possible. So the amendment would be to do the Micah's presentation on Neighbors for Clean Air, and then basically scrap emergency preparedness and move to the what's next for the LNA discussion. Is that an appropriate, oh my gosh, the word is eluding me right now, amendment, Autumn?
So I can make this.
Sorry, to push. Yes, thank you. And that the members be allowed to raise their hand, and that you can call on people who have raised their hand and they can speak.
So I can eliminate the emergency preparedness. That was my item, so I can just take that off the agenda if that makes things easier. And for clarification purposes, I will say that we currently have a policy that folks have about 2 minutes to speak, and the way we came to that is, 5 minutes per person might not give us enough time for everyone. So, I mean, we'll definitely call this to vote. I'm just offering some clarification and background. 2 minutes is what we found to be a good amount of time to allow for more voices to be heard. And then we can certainly go back to anyone who needs more time or wants to make a second comment. So that's also a consideration. If we get through all of the items on the agenda, 5 minutes per person for every person in this meeting, we might not have enough time.
Okay, there's a couple comments in the chat. One, the intention really being to make sure we have space for all members to be heard. Discussion between 2 up to 5 minutes. 3 minutes. Let's see. Autumn, you have your hand up still?
Sorry, I didn't mean to leave my hand up. Yeah, I don't think everyone's gonna want to speak for 5 minutes. I just think that some people might want to. And I don't think that there are so many people present that that is impossible, but whatever, it's up to you.
Well, Autumn, it's your motion. So if you wanted for the vote to be for 5 minutes, then that's what we will vote on. I think right now people are just kind of offering their input. Like I see.
Anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes is fine with me.
All right. Okay, I guess Autumn, do you want to type that out so it's very clear that it's your motion? And then I think we're ready to call for a vote. Autumn, are you comfortable if I summarize and then we call for a vote?
Sorry, I was typing as fast as I could.
Oh, no worries. So Autumn in the chat motions for the floor to be open to LNA members to speak by raising hands and being called on to have 3 to 5 minutes each.
And this is for the discussion about the LNA. The LNA's future, right? Yes. Okay, so. So call to vote. If you are in favor of raising the speaking time per person from 2 minutes to 3 to 5 minutes when we get to the item on the agenda that's about the future of the LNA, vote yes if you're in favor, no if you're against it, or abstain if you abstain, and you can vote if you are an LNA member.
All right, tallying.
If I could get a point of clarity, this was for 3 to 5 minutes of uninterrupted speaking by membership, correct?
Yes, during the item on the agenda that's about the future of the LNA.
Hang on one sec.
And you are an LNA member if you live in Lens or own a business in Lens, and you've signed into at least one meeting, and tonight counts. So.
All right, my preliminary count is 11 yes, 5 no, 0 abstentions. I'm gonna do one more count. Joanne, Daniel, Rob, Chris, Autumn, Nick, Sabina, Luke, Spencer, Morgan, sorry, Autumn, and Robin. 11 yes, 5 no, 0 abstentions. The motion carries. Excellent. Well, thank you for bringing that up. We have a comment in the chat. How can this meeting proceed without any sort of integrity when you have used this aggressive individual using profanity and personally attacking a member without any enforcement of the rules? What happened to the safe space? Where is enforcement? It does not make sense. So Doretta has typed in reminding that code of conduct still applies. Per the ONI standards for disruptions, we provide one verbal warning prior to kicking somebody out. As a reminder, and this was pretty quick, so we didn't get a chance to mute, but we will mute you and we will remind you. The chat is considered speech, so you'll get a reminder by chat or verbally, as is what happened here. And then the second violation results in being ejected from the meeting. So that is section 8I of the ONI standards, if anyone needs a reference there. Okay, so next up we have
And I see your comment too, and I believe that Jean also gave Schultz a warning as well for targeting a person. So
I didn't target anyone. There's like 5 city staffers here. I just asked for city staffers to be, I don't understand. This
please
seems
don't
very
interrupt you. This is your second warning. Please don't interrupt or speak out of turn. Thank you. Let's move on to the agenda, please.
excellent. Okay, so we have approving of meeting minutes from May and July. Here is the link to the May meeting minutes. Here is the link to the July meeting minutes. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if it's all right with folks, I'd say in the spirit of time, let's vote on them together. So for the, oh dear, sorry, this is always a challenge. So as a summary briefly, for the May general meeting, we had guest speaker Commissioner Hardesty. There were several members and guests ready. Let's see. We had the presentation about the May cleanup event. There was a discussion about Portland Street response with Commissioner Hardesty. And then we had committee updates. These are available again, linked or at our website in written form. And then for July, we had OTAC and Prosper Portland and Palindrome with us, and they spoke about the development that's happening in Lentz Town Center right now. You can find their meeting minutes and their presentation info as well attached here. And we also had a couple updates on the E-zone map correction project, an announcement from the community, as well as the cleanup that occurred in July. So those are the July and May 2021 general meeting minutes. I would like to motion to approve these minutes.
I second.
Perfect. I will call to vote if there is no discussion. Joanne, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment on the July general meeting at 7:21 where the OTAC presentation takes place. I would like to see that there be added a brief summary as to what the community neighbor comment was, because right now it sounds like everybody was cheerleading for the land use of Palindrome, and that wasn't the case. Strong Housing Team was there, and Rob Pitt had made some comments about the lack of neighborhood contact through the neighborhood association, as well as issues about lack of parking, lack of, for disabled folks and people who needed to get to work, lack of family-sized housing, which came up a lot, and also status of 92H and the Portland Housing Bureau low-income housing. So I'd like that just to be brought up so that people know it wasn't just a presentation by OTAC. There was actually robust community comment about it from Lynn Strong Housing Team and from Rob Head. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Joanne. Yeah, in this one, because there was so much discussion and not as much voting, you can make sure that you look at that detail in the video recording. I think there was some very robust discussion. Morgan.
Wait, could I just say one? Could you, am I unmuted?
Yeah.
But could it be added as like a 2-sentence text so that people who weren't at the meeting are sort of alerted that there's something other than just palindrome going on about land use, that actually there were some, I thought, rather serious community concerns about the land use proposals. And I don't think we should rely on people to just sort of read their minds, because it was not a very dynamic meeting as it was. And, you know, I don't think people are going to make time for an hour and a half to go and watch that meeting unless it's really said that, hey, at this point, there's some community neighbor context. Thanks.
There is a timestamp to that discussion. If you click on that link that is linked at the bottom of that minute, of those minutes, you can see the discussion and it starts right where that discussion starts. And no, I will not add anything else to the minutes.
All right. Well, Joanne, thank you for voicing your experience of that meeting. We were both there, so there was pretty low attendance. So I would encourage you, if you have been seeing that wall getting knocked down, to make sure that you explore that and reach out to OTAC or Palindrome if you have any additional questions. Are we ready to move to vote, or do people, I guess, are these hands still up, or are they lingering because they didn't get taken down? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and call to vote. So if you are a eligible LNA member, so again, you live or own a business in Lentz, please vote to approve or not the meeting minutes. You may also choose to abstain. Okay. Sorry, it's very challenging. Okay, so one. Abstain, one, abstain, and then I will vote yes. All right, so we have 5 yes, 1 no, and 4 abstention, 2 no's with Joanne. And Joanne's no is disregards comments of community groups and does not allow people who are not attending to see pertinent concerns, which I believe was addressed by the video. And then Schultz's no was inaccurate note taking. All right, we have 3 no's. So we have 5 yes, 3 no, 4 abstentions. All right. Joanne asks, can people vote if they weren't at the general meeting? It looks like multiple people have chosen to abstain if they weren't at the general meeting. I would say our votes are typically open to anyone who is an LNA member.
Since there's a video recording made. Yeah.
All right. So we have 5 yeses, 3 no's, and 4 abstentions. Okay, Ken coming in last minute here.
And just to clarify too, for folks, what, for anyone who might not know what we're voting on exactly, it's on posting the minutes as official records on the website. They are posted as draft as they are. So the recording is there, the minutes are there. But this is just like a formal procedure to endorse them officially. But even if it's a no, then I mean, the recording still exists. So people can still see for them with their eyes, like what went on at the meeting.
Okay, so it looks like Chris's no is only to July. So for May, we have 5 yes, 4 no, 4 abstentions. So that set of notes passes, I believe. And then for July, we have 5 yeses and 5 no's. So that set of notes will remain in draft form. All right. Okay, so we're finally getting into the exciting part of the agenda. Micah, if you're still here with us, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few minutes to talk about your group and air quality.
Thank you. Can I have screen share capability, please? Hello, everyone. My name is Micah Bishop. I use he, him pronouns. I'm 23, and I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for a group called Neighbors for Clean Air. It's totally all right if you haven't heard of us, because we're a small local group that started in Northwest Portland, organizing with neighbors over there. And I strongly believe this is the first engagement that my organization has had east of 82nd Avenue, which is the reason I'm here. Our mission is to have good air quality and ensure the health and livability of every person in Portland. And I want to see a raise of hands. You can either do it on screen or on Zoom. If you know that Multnomah County's air quality is in the bottom 2% of the nation. Not many of us know that. It is really awful. We face a lot of environmental justice issues here, but air quality is one of our primary ones. Asthma rates are off the charts, and specifically diesel goes totally unmitigated. So I'm going to drop a sheet in the agenda really fast. This is a quick diesel pollution facts sheet, safety facts that you can carry with you. And this is something that you can share with your families, and I really recommend you do. I am here specifically at your neighbor association meeting, which, by the way, is the highest attendance I've ever seen for a neighbor association meeting, which is awesome, because my organization has a grant to establish air quality monitoring data, east of 205. We are partnered with a group called Purple Air, which is a low-cost sensor company. And we buy sensors from them, and we distribute them in areas that do not currently have air quality. So all of these monitors go to a map. They monitor 2.5 particulate matter, which is diesel, and also wood smoke. So some of you might be familiar with this website because it is where a lot of the data was coming from last year. airnow.gov uses this data, and Purple Air uses this data. It's Wi-Fi enabled. And as you can see, there are a lot in this area, a lot in downtown and near Tabor, and very few east of 205. 2 of these 4 that were in Lens Park are at Rose CDC locations, and we put them up about a month ago. So basically my proposal here is, in the short term, I would love to partner with 1 or more of you, hoping to get at least 3 people who are interested in hosting an air monitor at their house. There are a few requirements for this monitor. One is to have an outdoor outlet. at your, either house or apartment building or stationary RV. Second is Wi-Fi connection. It does not really, it doesn't take from the Wi-Fi, and no one can tap into the network through the device. It just needs that to project data onto the map. And the third one is it has to be 6 to 10 feet off the ground. So I'm actually going to drop in this form if you're interested in hosting a Purple Air monitor. We are giving these for free. We want to co-create effective advocacy, and we want all of the neighborhoods east of 205 to have the resources established. We're hoping to have these up for a year, and what we're going to do with this is we have a partnership with students and professors from Reed College and from PSU that are working together to create a program that has effective data communication to all of you so that you know why your air quality looks the way it does. Another resource that's been created by these groups in coalition with Metro is what'sinourair.com. I think it's what'sinourair.com, and that one shows construction permitting. Sorry, that's not it. It's what'sinourair.org. My mistake. And what'sinourair.org shows construction permitting in your area, anywhere from somebody putting in a pool to an entire glass facility being built and operated near you. We together can hold corporations accountable for the amount of pollution that they're putting into our air. And the way we do that is in the long term, we're trying to build a diverse coalition of people from across the city to have the tools they need to create their own diesel advocacy, anti-diesel advocacy, deconstructing diesel advocacy, to work with us to fight for better source rules, to work with us to fight for better air quality, and to mitigate the impacts of having such low air quality. Our health is really on the line here. And the last thing I'll say is that I do hope that you guys do have a conversation around disaster preparedness. Wildfire season is right around the corner. And as we know, there are fires currently burning throughout the southern and eastern areas of Oregon. So if you or your family have need for, we have a partnership with a group that distributes box fan filters, and we'll be out at Rockwood this weekend at their community fair if you guys want to join us there. I think I have time to take 2 questions. I saw one in the chat. The outlet does not have to be 6 to 10 feet off the ground. The cord itself is 10 feet long, the electricity cord. And so we can put it up somewhere else or stretch it to somewhere that it needs to be. Yeah, are there any questions for me? I'll also drop my email in the chat. Can I see a show of reactions if anyone's interested in hosting a monitor potentially? Awesome. I see 1 or 2. That's great. Yeah, please fill out the interest form. The event is on Facebook. I won't look for it right now. Nicole, that's actually okay. We just want to put it east and around 205. Or if you have like a neighbor, the gray area is generally like there's not established data, as you can see from that map. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Micah. We'll make sure we have the links up as well as the ones that are posted in the chat here. We really appreciate it. And I think it seems like everyone's pretty positive about learning more about what's in our air and what we can do about it. So thank you for joining us tonight. Excellent.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. So we are now about to transition to the main event. I'm sure that many of you are here for. Let's see, let me screen share briefly. And then I will turn it over to our moderators for today. So the reason that we put this on the agenda was because the board felt like it was important to have a conversation about what the future of the organization looked like. As soon as we get through these 2 slides, I'm going to turn it over to our City of Portland District Coalition facilitators who are here to support us in this conversation today. So that is Doretta and Josie. I'll have you guys intro yourselves in a minute. Essentially, we put together 2 slides. One was, what does the continuation of the LNA look like from a purely logistical point of view at this point?
I thought you were going to open up the discussion.
Okay. I was going to present these 2 and then we were going to open up the discussion, but we can start with the discussion. I can turn it over to Josie.
No, I mean, this is part of it. We don't need to be interrupted. You can continue. This will take like a minute. It's important for context, and that's why we're doing that. We're offering context to the conversation, bringing everyone on the same page. So I would say finish that, Jean, and then we can turn it over.
Thank you. So logistically, we need more board members. The current bylaws require 7. All the current board members are resigning, and only 5 candidates have expressed interest. The bylaws, however, can be changed. So the state of Oregon actually only requires 3 board members for nonprofit organizations, but we do agree as this board that it does take more than 3 people to run this organization effectively. And finally, we feel like overall there's been fairly low engagement. So I'm actually really excited to see so many people here today to talk about this topic. We did also want to provide what does the other option look like? So if we don't continue, what does it look like to dissolve the LNA? And essentially, per the articles of incorporation and the LNA bylaws, there would be a vote to dissolve the organization. Assets would be distributed per articles of incorporation to charity. We'd have to create a dissolution plan for these assets, including paying any residual bills, and then liquidate the remaining assets. And then the final sort of administrative items are notifying the DOJ of dissolution in writing, filing articles of dissolution with the Oregon Secretary of State, and then sending the articles of dissolution to the IRS with the 990N form that we complete every year, and that would be due by April 2022. So this is why, as a board, we decided this was an important discussion topic to put on the general meeting agenda for today. So with that, I am going to turn over the facilitator role to Doretta and Josie. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight.
Hey, everybody. I'm just going to try to make sure everybody gets to talk. Remember, the code of conduct still applies. And raise your hand if you want to talk, and I'll page through you the way you are on my screen. I see one hand so far. Joanne?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I timed it. It's under 2.5 minutes. A solution, in my opinion, would be have the city de-recognize LNA now, so that it's no longer the go-to advisory voice in the neighborhood. LNA, as currently run, is a poor model of participatory democracy. This could be a temporary arrangement till long-promised and much-needed bylaws revision takes place with robust community engagement. LNA boards have not been observing bylaws or ONI standards. The grievance process is disrespected. Requests for public records are unacknowledged. The board refuses to implement a board code of conduct. There has been corroborated financial mismanagement. 67% of the LNA bank account headed to projects and assumed business names of former or current board members, including $2,000 as a seed grant for a board member to establish a nonprofit from their assumed business name. LNA board needs to share the seat at the community and civic life table with other hardworking, committed, long ignored community groups. For at least the last 3 years, with dwindling participation due to continuous disregard of brave, safe space, community alienation, targeted disenfranchisement of whistleblowing members, and now COVID, LNA has been run as an oligarchy. No public comment agended at general meetings since December 2020. Non-responsive or selectively responsive official Gmail controlled by 2 to 3 board members. For 3 years running, a control of elections by a one-person nominations committee. Fraudulent 2019 elections due to no quorum. Allegations of disparate treatment and discrimination that LNA, EPCO, and Civic Life choose to ignore. Civic Life and EPCO technical assistance has been continuously sought with grievances with elections, with financial mismanagement, with allegations of discrimination from 2018 to present. None has been forthcoming through 3 regimes. This is particularly egregious since Civic Life mission purports to be supporting engagement of diverse communities of neighbors in civic and community life. Do you recognize LNA now, at least temporarily? Defunding is not relevant. The LNA board between July 2019 and November 2020 defunded LNA, spending more than 2017 and 2018 combined. In December 2017, LNA had $11,000 in its bank account. In July 2019, it had $10,000. By November 2020, it barely had $1,500. Thank you.
Anyone else want to talk? Remember, everybody's giving their own opinion. Autumn, I see your hand.
Thank you. I've had a lot of community members contact me over the past few years, feeling very unheard by the LNA board. So that is the reason why I wanted to give people a chance to speak. I'm very nervous and having anxiety because of my own personal past experiences. So forgive me, I'm very nervous right now. But I believe that there has been a huge disconnect and that the board has not been engaged with or listening to community members for the past few years. I was a board member in 2016. And when I was elected, 250 people approximately showed up to vote. I believe in the last election, there were 25 people that voted, and in the prior election, 10 people. I believe that some, I'm trying not to be accusatory here. I believe there are some people, board members, that have alienated and driven members away. And there's also a long history of harassment surrounding the LNA, particularly towards women. Myself and numerous other women who were on the board were horribly harassed. We experienced online harassment, in-person threats, false accusation, intimidation, and insulting and racist nicknames. And it was extremely scary. I often went home crying for hours and also terrified, wondering what some of these people might actually do to me, just for being a board member. I was literally terrified as a woman on the LNA. And unfortunately, when we reported this, we were not taken seriously. We reported it to Epno Oni, who is now Civic Life. We reported it to the chairperson. We were victim shamed, and we were told, that it was our duty to listen to the people that we served, and that we were there to serve them. And when there was a recent LNA Zoom that I watched, where that same person who told us that said community volunteers should not have to endure harassment, I found that very upsetting, that it was such a difference from what we were told. Multiple women were told when we experienced harassment, and that further activated my trauma. And when this same person felt that they were harassed, they thought that it was okay to call the cops and claim harassment, when the only thing that changed was their relationship status with the perceived harasser. And that it was now happening to them. So the hypocrisy of that really added to the traumatic experience. And I still am very involved in my neighborhood, in helping my neighbors and making my neighborhood a better place. But now, because of all the harassment I have experienced, I have to do it stealth, undercover ninja style, and which makes it difficult. But it's ridiculous that in order to help my neighborhood, I have to sneak around. That I have to sneak around in order to help my neighborhood. I know many former LNA board members, and to be honest, I don't know anyone who felt that it was a good experience. I think at least most of the women I know experienced harassment, and I believe that harassment will continue unless there is clear support and a system in place and rules that guarantee equity of all board members, not a hierarchy. And so that's my statement. I also have, I'm sorry, I'm like I said, I'm really nervous. I was very verbally attacked when I spoke out in the past. So I'm very upset right now. So I'm trying to hold it in.
You have 20 seconds to go.
Okay, so when I left the LNA, there was around $11,000 in the account. Now there's less than 1,500. This money was meant to serve and improve life for the LNA members. And I believe I would like the board members to explain how the way they spent that money improved things for the membership of the LNA and not just their own self-interest projects or stomachs. Thank you.
Time is up.
5 and 20 seconds. Please rate if you want to keep it short.
I see Jean has her hand up.
Sure, I'll cede the floor if there's no one else who spoke. But Autumn, I want to say thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional too, because I think some of the things I heard from your experience multiple years ago echo the experience of this past year. I am honestly a little afraid to live in Lance because of the people that I've had to interact with through the LNA and that harassing behavior. So thank you for sharing. And I just want to let you know you're not alone. And I completely echo your sentiment that, and I think part of why for me, I don't think this organization should stand moving forward is honestly because of pretty intolerable and unneighborly behavior. So thank you for sharing.
I see Robbins Johnson.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. This is my very first meeting, and I'm also new to the neighborhood, just purchased my home in March. So again, only months in. I feel like I heard at the very beginning of this discussion that there are no board members who are engaging in moving forward or staying on the board, that it would be a complete new board. And I'm going to ask my question around if there's any sort of context or information for why there are no board members moving forward, not in the spirit of rumor mongering, but really trying to understand the context to better understand any sort of vote for dissolution or ongoing or I guess this sustainability of the LNA. And if there's not really anything that's relevant to share, that's great. Maybe not great, but totally fine. I just wanted to ask the question again, I'm super new, so I don't know the context as to why there would be no board members who are seeking moving forward.
I see a hand from Katie Penna.
Oh, if somebody wanted to address Robin's question first, that would be great. And you guys can come back to me. I don't know if that is a thing that we're doing. So I'll ask that question before I talk.
That seems appropriate to me. Is there a serious objection to that?
I can talk to, this is Nicole. I can talk as far as my experience and why I'm stepping down. Maybe that would help give context there.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm a member at large. I joined the LNA last year in the fall at the election. And basically, I've had a great experience working with the board members, but I have a couple of reasons for stepping down. One is that, in my opinion, the LNA really doesn't have much power or authority with the city. So I don't really understand what its purpose is. I joined thinking that we would be able to do a lot of action and create community within our neighborhood, but really running, because of the way the bylaws are written, the way that we have to run the nonprofit, we basically spend all of our time in meetings because of the bylaws. So I would strongly suggest, if the organization does stay on, that there needs to be a very large overhaul of the bylaws to make it a more functional organization. For me personally, I don't find much satisfaction in being part of this board, because I want to do things and I don't want to sit on Zoom. I'm already on the computer too much. So I want to be out in the community, making relationships and doing things. And I do that on my own, and I do that with other neighbors. And so I feel that my time is going to be better spent taking action that way. I also will say that there is abuse, very specifically by members of our community who are here and present in this meeting today. And it is just, there's very little, very few people come to our meetings, and those that do harass us. And so basically, I don't need that in my life. And I would, definitely caution anyone else who is thinking of joining, that is a real thing that will continue to happen, because as Autumn mentioned, that has been happening for a long time. I know that there are some efforts from the city to try to improve that situation, but at the time being, there's no recourse for abusive neighbors who act that way. And so, yeah, I don't want to continue having to deal with that on a regular basis. And that's why I'm stepping down. But I have very much enjoyed working with the people on the board. So I will say that. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the order that it was happening before the question. I think Nick Christensen.
Sorry, I think it was Katie. She just ceded her spot to Nicole.
Yeah, Katie, go ahead, and then we'll do Nick next.
I have been involved in the LNA on and off for years, and have been a board member on and off for years, and I have really mixed feelings about the dissolution of the LNA. On the one hand, I agree with everything Autumn says. I was heavily involved with the LNA when Autumn was a board member. But on the other hand, it makes me really nervous to not have a neighborhood association when that is how the political tides of the city of Portland function, seemingly to me. So I have a lot of mixed feelings. I really think with an overhaul of bylaws, this could be a more functional organization. I think with more outreach, we could get more engagement. There has been very little to no outreach from the LNA board in a long time. We used to get hundreds of people, as Autumn said, to the board, to meetings. But in the past few years, it's been dwindling. Part of that is because, like all neighborhood associations in Portland, it can be dramatic and there are differences of opinion. But also, the people who've sat on the board in the last few years don't really engage the community. And I've seen that firsthand. So my feelings are mixed, but at the end of the day, I don't think that we should not have a neighborhood association. It has been my experience living in Lents for as long as I have, that the city of Portland likes to dump their problems in East Portland. And without a advocacy group for Lents, we're just going to become more of a dumping ground for the city's issues than we already are. So that's my 2 cents. How much more time do I have? I have no idea how long I've been talking.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, great. So I would just like to share something from the key principles of restorative justice, that in order for restorative justice to be effective, everyone must grapple with their own personal responsibility. And we ask that everyone is honest with themselves and searches deeply in their hearts to discover how they might have had a hand in the matter being how the LNA got this way. Even if the harm was unintentional, the person who caused harm needs to take responsibility for their actions. Ultimately, taking responsibility needs to be a personal choice and cannot be imposed on someone unwillingly. So, in my opinion, in order to fix the issues, we need to have some serious conversations about what's causing the issues and how we can all own up to our part in making the LNA what it is today. And I think it would be I think it would do a great disservice for the neighborhood to not have a neighborhood association at this point in time. I think there will become a time where neighborhood associations are no longer necessary and needed, but I think that time will only come if the city charter is effectively amended to have districting. I think we are where we are, and not having a neighborhood association, yeah, would not be good. All right, I am done speaking. Thank you.
Nick, you're up.
Thank you. Nick Christensen, former chair, 2010 to 2013. I'm here because I agree that it's time to end this show. The LNA exists to be a conduit between the city and the community. And there are 25,000 people or so in this neighborhood, and there are a handful of those in this neighborhood who will insist on saying the LNA does not speak for the neighborhood if they disagree with anything the LNA is saying at any given moment. And some of those people are not good faith actors. They're gaslighters and they're abusive, and at times they've made me worry about my own safety. I want to second what Autumn said about terror and how I have seen that as an attempt to intimidate participants in the LNA. I've had complaints filed against me at my work for trying to be involved in my community. I mean, somebody threatened my job because I tried to be involved in my community. I've had other members just repeatedly walk back and forth in front of my house in an attempt to intimidate me because I was trying to be involved in the neighborhood association. That's not functional. And it's really disappointing because I love this neighborhood. I gave 3.5 years of my life, some weeks 20 hours, some weeks 40 hours to this organization, to fundraising, to building political capital, to going down to City Hall, to sitting through those stupid freaking meetings where everybody in Inner Southeast was like, ooh, we got everything's horrible out here. And we're like, we don't even have a community center or a park or a library. And the best thing we got is the copper penny and a gas station. It's painful to say that it's broken, but we can't do anything like that anymore. And there's no, I hear people saying we need to change the bylaws, but the whole structure is broken. It's based on a white supremacy culture at a time when we didn't have the internet to connect with each other. When you literally had to gather as a group in a church gymnasium to share your voice with City Hall. And those days are gone. Those days are long gone. Everybody has a voice right now. And in this community, not only do they demand to hear it, but they don't want to hear anybody else's voice. And I think this format is broken. This particular organization is broken. It's too big. It's time to end it. It's time to disband and liquidate the assets. I'm sad to say it. I'm choking up saying it because I've worked so damn hard to try and make this a sustainable organization a long time ago, when I was younger and dumber. And I don't see it now. I don't see it anymore.
Sabina, you're up.
Thank you. My name is Sabina. I'm currently the chair, and I've been the chair since 2017. Most of what I may have wanted to say has already been said by most people here. I guess for clarification purposes, why the board kind of reached this point of saying, like, is it better to dissolve or continue? Some considerations that were on our minds. Has this nonprofit reached its purpose? Like, when it was formed, there weren't as many organizations on the ground doing that work of connecting the neighborhoods to City Hall or making sure people have a voice. Now there are. Additionally, we used to get funding from the city. It was kind of a guarantee. Now it's not, and we can access funding by competing with other nonprofits. And we feel that it's perhaps unfair to compete with other nonprofits that are doing work, helping, different segments of the population here that actually need help. And we could instead all join those organizations and divert more funding to them and support them. And then, we've tried, like, over the last 4 years, I've been spending, I would say, at least a minimum of 10 hours a week, but like Nick has experienced too, sometimes 20, sometimes 40 hours a week on putting this together, on all the events that we've done, on making this more inclusive. When we were meeting in person, we added food to our meetings, we added childcare, we were doing, here are some of the events I posted in the chat. We're doing flyers, we're doing heavy outreach, going to schools, meeting with various groups, trying to bring people in. Unfortunately, you can do that all you want if when people come to these meetings, they have negative experiences. That is, very telling to them, and they don't want to come if they experience conflict here, if they experience targeted attacks, and they don't feel safe here. And overwhelmingly, the experience of the board this year, when it was mostly new folks, has been that, everyone has done their due diligence, and we had a very diverse board, and they all received very targeted attacks. I won't speak for other people, but I will say that personally, I've had multiple false reports filed against me and my family by members of this group, that for whatever reason, I think we can all disagree. I think it's healthy to disagree. I think conflict can be healthy, and we can do that without targeting people's livelihoods or targeting their families, or making people experience harassment and having their licenses threatened, or just having their families threatened. So that's where we are. If we dissolve the LNA, it can be restarted. It takes a lot of work. That's another place where we're at, is like, it's not manageable. The amount of work that we've all had to put in is not manageable. It's not sustainable, I should say, for 2 or 3 people. So at times, various folks who are here have joined, have helped, but they come and go. And then it falls on the same people to keep it going, and it's unmanageable. And another thing is that we don't feel like despite whatever good intentions anyone might have, despite all the work that you want to put in and all the time, the way the system is created, we just want people to know that as a volunteer, there's a lot of expectations of you, and there's zero protections from the city. So that is something that we've learned, where we're experiencing targeted harassment, and we are being forced to still continue to interact with people who harass us. And the city says yes, and we know this is wrong, and we cannot help you yet. At some point we might. So I think what we're proposing is to shut it down until there's a better plan in place, until the city can protect volunteers, or establish certain rules by which some people, can't target you and harass you and threaten you or harm you. And then you still have
30 seconds.
Thank you. You still have to continue to come to meetings. So I guess I, like when we were doing like a little blurb from each board member to recommend the organization, this is an organization that I've invested a lot of my time and energy, and I cannot in good faith recommend it to anyone because I don't want anyone subjected to what we've been subjected to. Until the city can fix this, I don't think it's healthy for anyone to be a part of this as it stands. But there are other groups that you can join to make a difference.
You are at the time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two more hands up, Morgan and then Schultz. So Morgan,
Hi, yeah, sorry.
sounds like we've got technical.
Okay, sorry, I'm on my phone. I just wanted to say that a lot of what has been said, I echo what Nick Christensen has said quite a bit. What Sabina said, I just wanted to I want to point out to folks who might not be aware that many of the people who are talking about this are themselves former board members. And I feel like there is a certain amount of personal animosity due to their experiences on the board. And a lot of that, whether it's intentional or not, is translated to the current board. And you know, we've come to this point just because we're tired and nobody else wants to do the work. And we don't have it in us. We just don't have it in us to do it. So, you know, everything that's been said about having to engage with the abuse over and over again, what Autumn said is absolutely true. The people who do it are in this meeting right now, and they're allowed to be here. So I just want to put that out there. I need you people to know this. I'm tired of it. I don't want to spend my time doing this anymore. So that's all I got.
Schultz, you're up.
Thank you. I was on the board previously. I came to the board because the board was acting in the community, but without engaging the community, and that's continued. What I've seen on the board and off, I've seen discriminatory practices based on age, disability, gender, race, a variety of things that are subjectively applied to whomever happens to be out of grace with the current people that are in charge, if you will. I've seen the failure of the board members to disclose conflicts of interest, to follow the LNA bylaws, to allow any dissenting voices, failure to address issues relative to lengths as requested by members, both as outside of the board and inside the board, seeing the communications, seeing the misrepresentation of those communications made to our community. I've seen what happens to people that speak up against actions the board takes, where they are then blamed or have things sent to their homes. That's happened to me too. I've had it while I was on the board and off the board, had things sent to my house, things done to me and my family. I know this board presumes to be the kind of like the current victims, but this has been happening for some time. It's been happening repeatedly. We have a contentious neighborhood. When I've given warnings about tactics that previous people have taken, I've been accused later of taking those actions with no credible reality to it. I've had a variety of accusations made against me that I would go to people's homes, which has never happened ever and is ridiculously absurd. I believe that when someone chooses to be a board member, they should read the bylaws, and that doesn't happen. There is almost no training from community and civic life. It is disastrous to join the board and not know what you're doing, because there is a rather robust group waiting in the wings to dissent on anything you do. And sometimes they're incredibly valid comments that we as board members or we as community members have acted incorrectly without recognition that we're all human beings. We all suffer different situations in our personal lives, but somehow when people get on the board, they can't accept that they're not good at it and step down and let other people that are willing to step up go in that place. For some reason, there's this absurd ideology that I get on the board, I can't step down. I have to stay and complain. instead of getting out of the way for others. This comment about no one else wants to do the work, people are consistently and regularly excluded from working with and through the LNA. There's private meetings that are done in people's homes or at the exclusion of others. There's a hierarchy present. I'm in charge, so I will ban people. I will mute people. I'm angry because I don't like what they're saying or their tone police. It's ridiculous. I think the LNA should continue, and I think those that don't want to be board members should go away. That's not a hard decision. If I am engaged in something I don't like, I step away from it. But I tell you what, it's a recognized voice of the city. The news comes through, they contact board members. You see board members out there pitching their other organizations, in fact, recruiting from this organization for their other organizations with no disclosures, mind you, of these conflicts of interest, none. And so there is plenty of blame for the actions of many board members, but the reality is our community could use an organization that represents it and is a place that they can come and have issues and have those issues discussed and be angry that something happened in their neighborhood that they don't like. For goodness sakes, a man was just killed. My neighbor was just murdered at the 7-Eleven. And where is the LNA's position on that? There's nothing being said. Why? Because he's white? I mean, it's so ridiculous what is chosen to be acted on and not acted on. And there's no voice for our community to speak up and say, hey, this is a big deal. We want to speak to this. No, it's 4 people. 2 people decide what the LNA says. And that's ridiculous. And it speaks to poor engagement. It speaks to ineptitude that is kind of comes right along with no training. The city is partially responsible for these failings. And I think that there should be an organization here. And I think that if you don't want to be part of it, leave. Let those that do want to be part of it, be part of it. And if it fails, if you've left, well, it's failed. And if it thrives and you've left, you can always come back. And if you don't like what it's doing, then come back to it and do something. And I love this comment of harassment. I notice board members are never, ever enforced on the same rules and standards that community members are. And it's another
You have
problem.
30 seconds.
Thank you. So no, harassing the board and calling the board out for its incredibly poor actions, I think are different. I've never gone to any of you people's homes, nor would I. It's a ridiculous slander. You know, I never went after people's jobs. It's a ridiculous slander. And, you know, yeah, you guys get to say this crap when I don't get to speak back and try to kick me because I dare to speak for myself. Well, thank goodness for people like Autumn that say, hey, our community needs to speak up. And then the people that have issues should get to speak for themselves. Thank you. Thank you, Josie, by the way.
You're welcome.
Daniel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I'm not sure what I'm trying to like collect my thoughts and gather what's going on here. I think it's terrible how people feel like after they taken their own time and sacrificing it for the betterment of the community, that they're feeling like that they're that they're in this position where they're too exhausted to help any further. But I feel like I don't want to pile on with the last couple of years with the LNA, but it really didn't represent the LNA. It was very much, it was very targeted in what it wanted to do. It didn't have a broad church to it. And it felt this way anyway. Certainly, whether it was intentional or not, that's how it came across. There was a tiny minority of the people that live in Lentz borders that they focused on and it was like that was all that they focused on. It was people who are living along, who are the urban campers, the twin tent dwellers, whatever you may call homeless and / those that choose to be living in a tent, without it, like completely ignoring the rest of the residents of this community. And at this point, it's mute because everybody who's on the board has left. But I kind of feel like if the LNA did disband, I mean, it's then going to be left to a couple of these so-called, organizations that are going to be the voice of this neighborhood because they have already made connections with, KGW, or they've got their friends down at City Hall that they've already communed with. And then that's it. There's just going to be, it's the same voice, but it's in a different organization. And the LNA should be a counter to it. And there needs to be a robustness to this community and a robustness to the representation. And it doesn't mean, it's an either or thing, but it, the lessons to be learned for if the LNA does survive, and I think this has been said, it's sort of like, include all voices is something you hear all the time, but it's so rarely exercised because it's, I like, for example, in the last meeting I joined, Joanne Harnesty was on. And, I asked her, did she speak to any of the residents that live along the multi-use path that have to deal with a lot of the trials and tribulations of the individuals that are living in the tents on the path? And the people living in the tents choose to be there. The people who are living in these residences along the multi-use path, it's some of the cheapest accommodation in the city, and it's where they have to end up. If you asked any one of them, would you rather live somewhere else? The answer would be yes, but they can't, because this is like where it falls into. But Joanne Harnesy's response was like, oh, I don't need to talk to them because I'm already a house person and I know how house people think. And I've got friends who own houses and I talk to them. And there's no pushback from, I felt no pushback from the members on the board. Like they were kind of like letting her go with this statement and as if it were true. And I think that there's no like it's because it fit a lot of, the people, some of the members on the board, it fits their agenda. And it's like, in a sense, I feel like it's almost the existing board was an extension of Joanne Harnesty's office. And, I would like to think, I know it's mute at this point because the board members are leaving, but I'd like to think if the LNA does survive, that it would be something that we would think going forward, that it really needs a robustness to the input that's coming in. And also, as Robert said earlier, like if you're going to be in the media, you got to declare your if you have any conflicts of interest. And again, mute in this case because everybody's leaving, but it'd be something to be keep in mind for if the LNA does survive, and I hope it does. And there was talk about it going in hiatus. I don't know how that would work, but my vote would be it goes into hiatus. Thank you.
Okay, we have Ken.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
What I'd like to say is that right now I'd like to have Jose from EPCO and Doretta take note that the chat was shut down by the request of a board member. This is how citizens and Lentz voices have been shut out of the process. We're not allowed to go and talk to the city because it's only channeled through one organization. That's the Lentz Neighborhood Association. Now that another community, quote unquote, charitable organization has been established, folks, the board wants to migrate, the current board wants to migrate from LNA, whose money they use to help set up that organization, and go through that organization that has the inside city contacts. I think all organizations in this community should work through the Lentz Neighborhood Association, and discussions should be opened to all. And the chat I see has been disabled. The chat is not shut down. We're asking people to keep it respectful. I did not see any disrespect going on in the chat, and it's disabled. I'm looking down at the chat and it's been disabled. This is how our voices are being shut out of the process. Those who favor what the city wants, go to the city and tell them what they want to hear. Lentz has a lot of issues. We are a low class, in terms of lower income neighborhood, lower class income neighborhood. We don't meet the median family income of the Portland area. In fact, we're way below it. And we have issues of the homeless folks being swept from other parts of the city, being dumped here with no services to help them. Our community neighbors here want to see the homeless be housed so they have a place to go, so they can be clean and help themselves. And when we try to get in there, the city doesn't want to listen to us. When we try to get together, even though our opinions may vary on how to accomplish this, most everybody wants to see all the problems taken care of. I would like to see all community voices heard, and I'd like to see the community nonprofit organizations operating in Lents to work together through the LNA. The LNA does need to have its bylaws revised to meet state and city standards. That's for sure. Maybe put LNA on hold for a while that's done with robust community engagement. That is, announcements go out to the community. Things are posted on telephone poles for those who don't have the privilege of having internet and internet access and computers, to be posted in local libraries so people can come together and discuss the bylaws and have a few drafts of the bylaws to be put together, amended, and then approved, which is going to be a long process. It'll probably take anywhere from 3 to 4 months. Once that's done, we can proceed forward as a united community. The way it is now, it's just being broken up and people are being silenced. And I do not like to see that. I don't care whose opinion varies from mine. It doesn't matter. Everybody needs to be heard. And as you can see from the speech had been shut down, why does that happen? Because they don't want to hear it. And, come on, folks. Everybody's different. Everybody needs to be respected and everybody needs to be heard. And like Dan said, if someone goes out and claims to be part of the Lents community, they should say what their affiliation is with and disclose any other affiliations they have. That way, we know where the source of information is coming from, especially if they claim to represent the entire community. Right now, Lents Neighborhood Association, in my eyes, does not reflect the needs of the community and what's going on in the community, and it needs to be fixed. But it does not need to be shut down, and its money does not need to be transferred to some other charitable organizations. The money needs to stay with Lents, and the money that was
time is up.
used.
Let's remember that imputing motives to other people is not really a good idea. Say what you think and what you believe and what your experience is. Don't impute your motives to other people, please. I have one more hand of a person who hasn't talked yet, which is Rob Pett.
I just like to say that I think dissolution is a pretty drastic step that I don't think many people in the community even know this is a possibility. And I think before you decide it should be dissolved entirely, there needs to be a lot of community outreach and at least attempts to figure out how to go forward, or at least in some manner, some transitional period to a new era, new bylaws or whatever. But I don't think it's warranted this time to just say, because there aren't people stepping up for an election in a month that a lot of people hadn't even heard of. There hasn't really been much outreach that I know of around that. And that you don't have enough people for that election that all of a sudden, oh, we're just not going to have a neighborhood association anymore. I think that's beyond what an action that should happen. I think there should be an attempt to make it work in some way. And also what's been brought up before is that a lot of people are kind of intimidated to try and get on the board. I know people who've would like to be involved in neighborhood organizing, but the attention that is brought by that comes at a price, a personal price. So, something needs to be figured out for sure, but I don't think we're at a point that the community is aware that the total dissolution of a neighborhood association could be right in the offing. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, is there anybody else who hasn't spoken yet who would like to talk?
I see Marcial.
Marcia Addy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So I used to be the secretary a few years ago, and I took over someone else's position because they were stepping down after a year. So I was really only there just a year, but that was enough to show me that all of the talk that the community members give about like, oh, we want a board to, engage the community and like do more activities. Every time we tried, there was very limited interaction. And so, I did like cleanup events that the city helped organize, and I had like 2 people from the community come help me. The bylaws, we tried multiple times to get engagement with that, received 0. So I hear these ideas and I respect the place that people are coming from. Like, oh, let's just put it on hiatus and then someone else can figure this out later. But there aren't enough people who are willing to step up because of the harassment that the board has received. The people who have been doing all of the legwork for the past 4 or 5 years are sick of it and they're stepping down. And I don't know that realistically it can move forward without people with that kind of dedication with the community members who are continuing to harass. So I just want to put it out there. If you really are willing to get the community involved and step up and participate, great. But I saw none of that other than the people that I worked with at the time.
Thank you, Dorita. I believe everyone who has hands up has had the chance to speak. Is there anyone else who hasn't?
Well, we've gone way beyond time. Are people wanting to present motions, or do you want to ruminate on this discussion?
Well, I think we need to move forward in the interest of time. And if everyone who has had their hand up has spoken, I think it's time to move on. At least if you've spoken at least once, because we are past time and we've already eliminated items from the agenda to accommodate that. I mean, it is an open meeting, but like someone has to facilitate it and you have to respect the facilitators. So, and and the agenda and the time. So. Jean, are you back? I believe Jean had to step out for a second. Since Jean was leading us through this. Morgan.
Yes, I'm here.
Do you know if Jean is coming back?
I believe she is.
Okay. Well, I guess I can move us through. Is there a motion on the floor? There looks like there might be a motion. And now there's a bunch of questions too. So, okay. Katie, do you have a motion?
I do have a motion. So let me read what I typed in the chat here. Give me 2 seconds to scroll up. So I would like to make a motion to have working membership meetings to revise the bylaws for the LNA to move forward after bylaw revision.
So Katie made a motion, seconded by Ken Cheney. Now we can have discussion. So are all of these hands that are up people that are wanting to talk about this motion, or are hands still up from previously? And please adjust accordingly. Okay, we're seeing some people drop hands. Katie, or do you want to say something about your motion, or your hand is just up?
Oh, sorry, my hand is just up.
Okay, we'll lower it. Robin.
Hi, yes, thank you everyone for all your contributions to the conversation. My question is, as a part of the motion to have a group of folks rework the bylaws and then, you know, consider moving forward after that, is there a way to engage past board members? Because I would hate to see us just consider moving forward after, you know, and not have that perspective, because I think that would make the bylaws stronger. And it sounds like there's a lot of pain and hurt, and people are obviously choosing to step away for a concrete reason, whatever that may be. But I'm just curious if there's a way to ensure, as a part of the motion, or maybe it's a second motion, I don't know, to have past board members be a part of the bylaws revision process. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Robin. I'll amend the motion to include Robin's suggestion. I really liked it. So I would like to amend my motion to include Robin's suggestion of engaging past board members to help with the bylaw revision.
Okay. Just to answer that question, having done multiple meetings that actually required sign-in for people to revise the bylaws that are well documented, I will say it is a very laborious process. It takes a lot of time. And I think right now, you know, we're dealing with severe volunteer burnout, and these are all great ideas. Someone also just has to execute them. And I think what we're hearing from some of the board members speaking tonight is that they've, you know, being like on the receiving end of like harassment and all these other things doesn't make it for a very conducive work environment for projects like this. Okay, who else? Autumn.
Thank you. I would just like to thank everyone for their honesty, their frankness and honesty. And I know that it has been difficult for some people to speak, as it has been difficult for me. I think it was a long time coming to be able to hear the voices of the membership. And it may be difficult for some people to hear some things, but I think that it's sometimes the hard truths have to be stated. And I personally, I care about my neighborhood and my neighbors, and I have spoken with other former board members, and we have considered, you know, wanting to run again for the board because we really care about our neighborhood. But the fear of harassment is just, it's just been too much. And literally knowing that we will be harassed if we participate in the LNA, knowing that that is going to happen is what keeps myself, and I know other people, from participating. And I know some people that are not even able to participate in these Zoom because they are so triggered by this. So thank you all for being honest and speaking up. And I really appreciate that this time was allowed to hear people's experiences. I don't know what the solution is, but at least we were heard.
Thank you, Autumn. Schultz.
Katie, you offer this motion. Are you suggesting to do something to the vote and postpone it or modify it or anything? To that point, I think it's important that we have the election, that anybody that wants to be on the board take on those roles and positions, and that those that have said that it was too much or not a great work environment or what have you, have the chance to exit and not bear the responsibilities of their office anymore. And those that are present take on this and the other issues that have been presented. Currently, the Lentz Monument has been questioned as like, hey, it's got a tree of heaven in there. And a bunch of community members want to go take it on. And they're like, should we talk to the neighborhood association? And some have said, why bother? Because it is like, who on the board wants to go and mess with that, right? They've already had enough to deal with. And so the point is, like, our community wants to take actions that are intersectional with the LNA. And I think that if we just get a board going and get some new blood or old blood or any people that want to be on there, and then say, hey, these are priorities that have been expressed by the 30 members of the community that showed up in the last meeting, then there's something to move forward with and to move forward on. But to return to, are you suggesting the election be postponed or anything like that? Or are you just saying in addition to the election, this be a task?
I'm saying in addition to the election, I find all of this discussion about this, dissolving the LNA board to be very shocking. And I think that there are a lot of people in the neighborhood who don't know that this is happening. And I think if people did know, people would step up and want to help rewrite the bylaws. I'm getting texts right now from people who are like, oh my goodness, let's rewrite the bylaws. Should we start a committee? So yeah, so to answer your question, Robert, it's in addition to.
Thank you.
And I think Morgan is the last hand up. Oh, and Nick. Then we have to move on.
Yeah, it's late. So first off, again, there's like Autumn Pugh saying, it's kind of hard to talk. There's a lot to unpack there. Who's going to do all this work? You're not going to have a board. We're not going to be. I'm not interested in helping with the election. I'm not interested in sitting idly by and putting in my hard-earned time while people I work with get harassed, bullied, yelled at. I'm not going to work with some of the people who are here who are talking about this because they are the ones who are harassing and bullying and constantly doing this over and over again. I cannot in good conscience tell anyone that they should do this. I don't think anyone should put themselves through this ever again. And also, the membership, okay, great. But I haven't seen many of these people show up in the last year. They come occasionally when something, but you have to be engaged and you have to be involved. And we do what we can. We're in the middle of a pandemic, the second big wave. And this isn't normal times. We can't talk about this like we're in normal times. We're not. So yeah, I just don't see how any of this could actually come to fruition. They're all great ideas, but I don't see it happening. So I think that this thing should be dissolved. And if somebody wants to create a new neighborhood association with quote unquote fresh blood, they can do the work, set it up, and get it done.
Thank you. And now Nick.
These issues are 7 to 8 years old. These are not new issues. And people have been calling for bylaw changes for years. And nobody stepped up to actually do the work, or people who have been attempted to do the work have been harassed. And the end result is we still have the same status quo. So I understand people thinking and wanting and wishing for another chance to make it work. But personally, I feel like these chances have come and come and come, and we're on a hamster wheel here that's going nowhere fast. And the way to do it is to break the hamster wheel and create something new with people who want to put the time in the community to build a new neighborhood association from the ground up. This thing is it's beyond on fire. It's a charcoal ridden mess.
Okay, and Nicole.
I would ask Katie to potentially amend the bylaws, or sorry, amend the motion to say that Josie or whoever is relevant from the city would be involved in the bylaw revision because no. Somebody, is there support from the city who can help with this? Because I think we are not a 501c3. We are, the way that our bylaws have to be written is different than other bylaws as a membership organization. So there are some nuances that I would just want to make sure we're advised properly on how that happens, and that we don't, we may not be able to use templates of other organizations who are not membership organizations.
Okay. So let's now call for a vote on Katie's motion. Katie, do you mind restating your motion, unless you have typed it in the chat, but I'm looking for it and I don't see the most current version of it. So do you mind restating your motion?
Not at all. Let me.
Since it's been amended, so just include everything that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second because I did type the initial in the chat and then it has been amended. So let me find it. So the motion is to have working membership meetings to revise the bylaws for the Lentz Neighborhood Association to move forward after bylaw revision. And the amendment to that motion was to have former board members contacted and ask for their involvement in the bylaw revision. And I believe that's it.
Okay, seconded by Autumn. It's unclear who is doing this. I don't know if you care to add that or not.
So I'm confused. So is this meeting tonight to say that after this meeting, there will no longer be any board members? Is that what's happening? Everybody's stepping down right now. No more board members?
Well, I think, I don't mean to speak for other board members, but the end of our terms is in September. So this is technically the last meeting before technically when elections happen, which is September. So as of next month, when it's the end of our terms, then there will not be board members. And Jean is back.
Sorry about that.
Katie, does that answer your question?
Yes, that answers my question. Sorry, I was a little confused of what was happening.
And so is there anything else you want to add to you have motion to have working membership meetings to revise bylaws and have board members contacted and included. And I asked if you want to clarify who's doing this or who's taking on this work.
Wow, that's a thing. Give me 1 second.
I'm just, you don't have to. I'm offering a clarification, but you can do it however you want.
I'll just keep it as it stands right now, the motion.
Okay, so I put it in the chat. And it's seconded by Autumn, I believe, earlier, just now. So, if you're in favor of if you're a member and you're in favor of Katie's motion, vote yes. If you're against it, vote no, or you can vote I abstain. Autumn, I see your question, and I can address it in just a moment. Jean, are you back? Are you helping with counting votes?
Yeah, I can help with counting in a minute. I was going to add a comment, but there's my vote, and I will go ahead and scroll to the top and count. Okay, so let's see. So the motion to have working membership meetings to revise the bylaws. All right, I'm scrolling down from 8:49. Let's see, we have, make some columns. Yes, no, abstain. So we have 1 no, we have 1 yes. We have a second yes. We have a no. We have a yes, we have an abstention. We have a yes. We have a yes. Yes. Yes.
I think some people may have voted twice.
I am struggling. Okay, I see the yes from Joanne. I see abstention. Okay, there we go. There's a yes from Christopher. Thanks for clarifying that, folks. We have an abstain. And Ken is different than, okay, that's different. Oh, no. Morgan votes no. Sabina. Luke. Okay, so I'm gonna double check, but the preliminary count is 10 yes, 6 no, 3 abstentions. I'm gonna do one more check from the top with names this time. Okay. Schultz. Nick. Rob. Spencer, thank you for bearing with me. Daniel. Autumn. JG. Joanne. Jason. Chris. Nicole. Ken. Yep, that's good. Me. Morgan. Sabina. Luke. Robin. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 yes, 6 no's, 3 abstentions. So the motion carries. Looks like in the chat, Nick, can I make a follow-up motion? And then Robin.
Made in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Do you want to read it for us, or do you want, sorry, my dog's being.
My motion is as follows. The LNA Board of Directors is directed by the membership, that's implied, to begin the process of dissolving the LNA, liquidating its assets with a report to the Office of Community Life, Civic and Community Life, requesting support to ultimately form a new neighborhood association or associations if needed. This motion may be rescinded by a vote of the board by October 31st, 2021.
Okay.
I second the motion. Robin and then Katie.
Hey, everyone. My question is more around even just as bridging. I know I saw in the chat some folks were willing to, as past board members, engage in a bylaws refresh, whatever we're going to name that. But will there be an official handoff regardless of board members' willingness / desire to, to move on? I want to honor people who are saying like, I've had enough, but I'm also wondering, will there be some sort of official we're transitioning process is my question for the group.
As the vice chair, to answer that question, at least for me personally, I am happy to help transition a new person and hand over the keys, but I will not be involved in this organization past the September election, and I will not support the election. So EPCO, our district coalition, would have to run that.
Looks like Nick wants to make a comment.
I understand the hour. I just want to very briefly speak to the motion. I respect and honor the energy and support here for folks who want to try and keep the organization alive. What I'm saying here is that if in the next 2 months and a week, if people want to put the energy into doing that, then they can kill the kill switch, but they can turn off the kill switch. But in the meantime, that clock would be ticking until there is a functional organization that can say, you're right, we should continue to exist.
And
Oh yeah, I just wanted to speak to Nick's motion. And Nick, I definitely understand why you put that motion forward. And I definitely want to respect everybody's experiences. I have jumped on and off the board for my own reasons. But I really feel like this has been, the idea of dissolving the board is a surprise. I just happened to show up to this meeting because other people that I asked me to come to this meeting. But I don't think that, I mean, no outreach was done. Nothing was said, nothing was posted in I Love Lents. And I think it'll be a great big surprise to the community um, if, you know, the board is just dissolved tonight, or if there is this looming sort of Damocles happening about it. The agenda said we were going to discuss the future of the LNA, but it was never, nothing was ever put in like, oh, the future of the LNA, meaning we're going to talk about dissolving this organization, period, the end. Nothing like that was ever said anywhere, period. So yeah, and I understand, Sabina, that I Love Lents is not the community, but it is the online forum in which the community chooses to gather. So, and you know that. You've been on the board long enough to know that. So yeah, I'm done speaking.
okay, so at this point, let's call to vote. Everyone has had a chance to weigh. The motion is Nick's motion. Let me scroll back up to dissolve the LNA board of directors is directed to begin the process of dissolving the LNA, liquidating its assets with a report to the Office of Community and Civic Life, requesting support to ultimately form a new neighborhood association or associations if needed. This motion may be rescinded by a vote of the board by October 31st, 2021. So if you are in favor, vote yes. If you're against it, vote no. You have to be a member to vote, or you can vote abstain to abstain. Please write in the chat. And if you're unable to write in the chat, you can vote orally, but just let us know.
All right, I'm starting up at the motion at, let's see, oh boy. All right, the motion was at 8:53. I seconded it. Let's go down. I guess, Sabina, how do you want to handle, there's various yeses prior to the call to vote.
Okay, it's been a little confusing. Look, I'm putting it again in the chat. So let's vote now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, there's too many.
There's too much to go through because there was so much conversation. So a vote for yes is to begin the process of dissolving.
All right. So let's see, we have.
Are folks still voting? Hold on, let's give everyone a chance.
Yeah. All right. So I'm making my columns here. Schultz, Daniel, Nick, Marcy, Joanne, Katie, Morgan, Nicole, Rob, Luke, Chris, JG, Sabina, Robin, Jean, let's see, Autumn, Ken, Spencer. All right. So a reminder, let's keep it businesslike and topical. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yeses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 noes and 0 abstentions.
Okay, so motion didn't carry.
Okay, so we do have, it is 9 o'clock. Katie, and it looks like we have Robin in the chat with a question. Katie, do you want to go first?
Sorry, I just didn't take my hand down after the comments.
Robin.
Hi, yes, I really want to honor folks who are feeling like I'm done, I need to step away, all of that. I'm just curious about the process of handing over the keys because just in my personal experience, it's not necessarily always like an email of here's everything you need to know, and I'm exiting stage left. There needs to be a couple of meetings. So I'm trying to explore the balance of handing over the keys and some sort of, again, like meaningful exchange of that happening without necessarily requiring any past board members to engage in the bylaws revision process. So again, that's just my question of, can someone paint a picture for me and maybe others on this call of what you all think of as the handoff process for giving the keys over in a meaningful way? Thank you.
I can help answer that really quickly, and then we have to end this just because of the time. So we haven't been quite in this position before, but I would say that this is what we're trying to figure out right now, right? This is one step of the larger conversation that we're having, and we wanted to bring it to the community and gather input from the community as well. And so we're having those conversations right now and trying to figure out what is the best. So I guess the conversation can continue. Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure, Jean, if because you're back, are you continuing to facilitate or?
Oh, sorry, go for it. Well, I just wanted to say that I have formally resigned.
Okay.
I guess my question though is that with the formal resignation, is that like, please don't contact me any further? Again, I'm really trying to honor boundaries that folks are setting. Is it like, please don't contact me, I will submit everything, and I don't know, Google form, you can find it here? Or are folks open to, like, again, some sort of formal, quote unquote, transition meeting, at least so folks can, again, I'm new, I would need to be a little bit oriented, hopefully. Again, this is an honest question. I don't want to put anybody in a position of continuing in something that has been harmful to them. But it sounds like there's a desire to try to salvage, quote unquote, in some form or capacity.
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. I think it's healthy to ask that question. I think it'd be healthy for the community to say, if along with, okay, we want this to continue, how can we support you to do this kind of transition? How can we support, having an election or, help with the bylaws or whatnot? I think those are the kind of things that would help. And part of why we brought it to the community was for us saying it's not sustainable for 2 or 3 people to do all the work. It's great to see turnout tonight. And, if folks want to continue some work, or, that can be a part of the conversation. Let's see, who shows up after tonight, and how we continue this conversation. I think, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And we had other items on the agenda, but we're not going to get to them. And it's past the time, but hopefully some folks felt heard tonight. Thank you to everyone who showed up. And I want to thank the board members who made this happen in this manner. I know there were a lot of attacks directed towards board members, but at the end of the day, I want to applaud Morgan and Jean, who had the idea for this, for the format of this conversation, right? Where we brought in outside facilitators, Doretta and Josie. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for staying late with us. Thank you for being here and all your guidance with this and more, much more. The bylaws, the grievances, everything that you've done to help support Lents and the Lents Neighborhood Association. So they had this idea to facilitate where it would be, so it's not facilitated by people that are involved in the conversation. So hopefully it was helpful to some of you. And then we'll see about how we continue this conversation. All I know is that this is a part of it. This conversation tonight is a part of it. And if more folks want to be involved or want to do the work beyond just suggestions, let's talk about it. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess meeting adjourned.